but
Right, but
it's not
how
going
is
to, when I think in a
how
white
is
woman,
he
I'm
how
sorry.
is he going to get to the yachts and the parties and the elevation when she is not the one inviting him to those things? How is he going to get there?
It's the white, it just looks better with the white woman on his arm.
Absolutely not. So that is a Freudian slip. It just looks better for a black man to have a white woman on his arm. Have you absolutely lost your mind? Thankfully, this is one of the few times that I think his brain caught up to him, because he then added, oh yeah, it's more socially acceptable. So it took that from being his personal judgment to what society deems appropriate. I'm glad he made that clarification, because what he said, that it looks better, that blanket statement highlights an inferiority complex that is a problem. Hey guys, welcome back to Themis and Thoughts. Grab your coffee, water, tea, whatever you're drinking, go and get that. Today we're going to be talking about Julius, Tonya TKO, and just some ideologies and thoughts around interracial marriage. And I think this was a really good interview to begin, but I'll explain. Let's talk. So, if you don't know who Julius is, it is okay. He's a young man who caused a bunch of hoopla on the internet and on Clubhouse. Beyonce's domain got disrupted because of Julius and what he sort of ignited on Clubhouse. But we're not here to talk about that. I am here to talk about the interview he did. And I'm here to talk about the interview because I think this was a very rare opportunity. Tonya TKO, who did the interview, by the way, also said it. This was a very sort of rare look into the mind of someone who has this ideology. What is this ideology, you might ask? Well, he does not like interracial relationships, but he specifically has a problem with black women, white man relationship. Now, he does highlight that he also doesn't have, that he does have a problem, rather, with black men and white women relationship, but he has less of a problem with the black man, white woman relationship than he does with the black woman, white man relationship. And the reason is, well, I mean, power, dominance, head of household, but ultimately, it boils down, I don't know if he understands this on a conscious level, but it boils down to women being objects, right? To be owned by their partners. I'll explain that hopefully towards the end, because this is probably going to be a two-part video. Now, I say it's going to be a two-part video, but if Tonya TKO ever sees this, please email me if you think I should not cover the rest of your content, and I will divest. Kidding. I won't. But I want to give her the opportunity, even though the copyright rules allow for sort of review of other people's content. I want to respect her platform on this specific issue, because I think what she's doing with this issue is ultimately a good thing. So anyway, done. Let's get into the video. So who is Julius? Instead of telling you, I will let you guys hear how this young man came to be a part of Beyonce's internet and the internet conversation.
Julius Stacks, Clubhouse.
Okay, look, there's no need for you to be nervous, Julius. You said Julius or
I'm
Julian?
nervous a little bit. Yes, ma'am.
Julian or Julius?
Julius Stacks.
All right, perfect. All right, Julius. All right, so why don't you tell us what took place yesterday? What happened? How did we get there? How did we end up where we are today?
Well, pretty much I heard from Clubhouse off of YouTube, and I wanted to join the app, and it was something that I could, I thought I could be beneficial from. So I joined the app, and in the hallway immediately was these rooms with kind of controversial topics. So I looked at the topics and read them, and I joined the room. I was allowed to the floor. I think that's what they call it, where I could unmute myself. Mm-hmm. I was just listening, and a question was raised.
And what was the question?
It was pretty much how one family would react to bringing the opposite race or another race home, and it just so happened that the question was directed towards a white male,
Okay.
and it just so happened to be a white male in the channel answering the question. And I'm just sitting there listening and listening, and it came to a point where he was going to explain himself or answer the question.
Okay.
And he became pretty hesitant, Tonya. He became hesitant in his answer, and based upon my previous knowledge and prior knowledge, that people lying about people lying is that hesitation is one of those annotations. So,
so do you remember what the
I kind
question
of
was?
Say again.
Do you remember what the question was?
The question had to be, how would your family react if you brought home a black woman?
And so what did the answer start out as?
Say again.
You said he was hesitating, so what did his answer start out as?
It was, and then that's when I blurted my remark.
Really? Oh, Lord. And what was your remark?
Nigger lover. I'm sorry to the viewers if that is an offensive comment.
So you yelled out N-word lover, and then what happened after that?
I believe this is my best reaction of how he sounded and the context in which he said it. Well, I'll be the nigger lover. And then no one respected the one mic rule after that.
Wait, what do you mean? What happened?
The whole room went in an uproar, and I believe it was more for the reasons that a white male had said the N-word with a ER at the end.
Okay.
But then people really wanted to know who blurted that out at first. And then it became known that I had
said it. Oh, and then so people had recognized that you had gone up and said it. But why? Why did you blurt that out?
So background out of the way. This is who Julius is. He is the guy that came on the stage in Clubhouse and shouted out N-word lover, right? To which the white man replied, I'll be the N-word lover, right? And obviously there's a bunch of hoopla because a white person said the N-word. I have never, ever seen this amount of honesty and vulnerability in answering questions around a person's own feelings when it comes to interracial dating. There is a ton that could be used here. I do think that this young man, Julius, should probably see a therapist. I think the way in which he speaks about interracial relationships, the way in which he is honest about just what is happening to him when he sees a black woman with a white man, as opposed to a black man with a white woman, I think there is a lot to unravel there. I don't think that the public domain is the best place for him to articulate some of his own feelings, right? So I will say that as a sort of preface. Now, when I hear him talk about the black man and the white man and the black woman and the white woman, there is a ton, in my opinion, of a sort of inferiority complex that exists. This is nothing to shame him for, and I will explain. In a society that has the history that American society has, it is very reasonable for people to have these kinds of opinions. It doesn't make them right, but it makes them there, right? People have thoughts that are not great, that are not fully thought out, maybe even subconscious thoughts that are just now being challenged when it's brought to the forefront. But in the public space, it becomes messy. And I can acknowledge that, right? And I hope that we can acknowledge that. The next step is whether or not we give grace to these ideas, whether or not we give grace to this person. I will say, as a black man, it is easier for me to give grace to him based on what he's saying, right? As a black woman, I don't think it is as easy because we'll get into this in a moment, but there is a sort of reduction of the black woman's role in a relationship. There is a sense, and this is not just by Julius, this is a societal sense that women who are in relationships are relegated to being nothing more than objects, to be dominated. And in that way, this ideology is really, really bad. So I can accept that, right? And because of that, I would never go as far as say women give him grace. I understand how men can be graceful with him even when they think he was wrong. Now let's get into the foolishness. Julius, why? Like, I don't understand. If you're going to go do an interview about something that you said, I think it would be beneficial to at least look over what you say, come up with your theory about why you believe what it is that you believe, and really analyze those theories, right? Speak to someone who disagrees with you. Most likely, this is the best way to do it. Speak to someone who disagrees with you and hear the kinds of pushbacks that you're going to get and be able to address them. Unfortunately, Julius was unable to articulate himself in a meaningful way. I don't think he's fully grappled with his own ideas, so he's unable to speak about them when he's getting pushbacks and questions. And you will see this throughout the video. Now, I will only be doing the first half, not even half, right? Like the first hour of this video condensed into less than 30 minutes, hopefully, right? So you guys can watch the rest over at Tonya TKO, or if Tonya does not reach out and say don't do it, I will do a follow-up where I do the rest of the video where Cynthia G and Christelyn came on and they spoke to him. That part won't be here. It was worse than the part that I'm doing right now. So let's continue. All right. So one of the first problems, instead of telling you, let's hear it. So this was one of the first issues in the interview, and I knew immediately this was going to be a problem. This interview was going to be a problem. So this is what Julius had to say. Let's play.
That's something that I feel strongly about, honestly.
You feel strongly about what?
Interracial dating, yes, specifically white males with black women, primarily due to the fact of the accounts of slavery and the depictions that I have gotten as a black male in America on the topic. Of course, I wasn't present or know anyone who was present during those times, but just the knowledge of that being there, it's unsettling. And I understand that, my remarks or my ideology has no real pull on what, on who's going to date who or who's going to procreate with who, but I just felt compelled due to his hesitation. Because and that's the reason why I did want to apologize and apologize for my my comments, because I didn't mean to affect anyone in any negative way, but just to kind of put some heat on him, because I look at whatever black woman he's dating as my sister, and anyone who's dating my sister, you're gonna have to go through some things. So I know that it's okay. She may know, but I need to know.
All right. So this is where I think there is a ton of issues, right? He says he wants to apologize. He did not mean to offend anyone. All right, that apology is not for me. If whoever is there, it's for them, right? But then he goes on to say the reason he did it was because these black women, whatever black women you're dating, they are his sisters, right? Tonya TKO is about to push back on this notion, right? She's going to say, but you do realize that you are telling your sister, or you're calling your sister rather, the N-word, right? Like you do realize by saying you N-word lover, the N-word you're speaking about is your sister, right? Now, I wish he had just accepted that he was trolling, right? I was trolling, I wanted to see a reaction. That would have been a better conversation, and the conversation might have stayed on that issue. This conversation does not stay on this issue. It goes down into just the pits of hell, right? But I want you to remember that he says his sister, because it comes up again later. There is a sort of battlefield scenario that he highlights, right, using the color purple. There is a theory that he's going to get into about the black man versus the black woman, right? But initially there is a sort of flowery language that is being articulated about my sisters. And the reason I'm engaging in this way is to protect my sisters, right? Like this is what is being invoked here, right? And it's something that I think it is not necessarily a bad place from which you are coming, Julius, right? Like, this is not a negative or horrible place. It's, I need to protect my sisters. Except, I question that you're coming from that place of wanting to protect your sisters, right? I think it is more of wanting to protect your image. I think that's where it's coming from, because ultimately what is going to happen later on is you're going to talk about the competition between the black man and the black woman and talk about whiteness as a chess piece, right? Whiteness as a thing to be used by black people in the fight between black men and black women to win. And so if you're saying this is your sister, then you're competing simultaneously with your sister, right? Like you both love and you're trying to protect her while you're trying to compete with her. And then you add to that the fact that he's going to say that a black man being with a white woman elevates the black man, right? So the competition is happening. You recognize in some ways, and I don't accept any of this reality, by the way, you recognize that a black man being with a white woman is an elevation, which he got a ton of pushback and he could not actually validate this, but whatever, right? Elevates the black man. But then you are trying to protect your sister who you're competing with from being with a white man, right? So it seems like you're conflating the rules of this game, right? You're conflating the competition with protection. You're conflating this familial sort of relationship with a straight up competition that you perceive is happening within the black community. It feels like an underhanded jab, right? So anyway, that is a sort of theoretical framework by which we're going to hopefully get back to at the end and explain why this is sort of convoluted. The sister, I am protecting my sister narrative will come up again, because I will bring it up again when he brings up the sort of competition and the quote one up for the team. So let's play it, because again, there's one thing that I did wish. And I think I said it before. I wish he had the floor. I wish he was able to sit and take over this conversation, insofar as I wish he was able to speak more in depth about these feelings and really get to the root of why he felt the way that he felt, because this was a real opportunity for us to get a glimpse into what people like this think, right? And I wish we had more of that. I do think because it was so subconscious, right, that the visceral reaction he had came from a very subconscious place. I don't think he would be able to articulate it. So I don't think it's the host and the guest's fault that he wasn't able to articulate that which he believed. I think he hasn't fully thought through them. Julius, if you have fully thought through them now and you want to talk, the platform is open. I would love to talk to you because, ooh, yikes, you probably won't come on, but.
All right. So you realize that in you saying that you were calling your quote unquote sister the N-word.
Yes, and that kind of became prevalent a little later on because of the history of that term and the context that it's been used over history. You normally would hear that type of term coming from one's white counterparts.
Right.
If they were found in the act of, so if any derogatory term, it was pointed at the white male because of my stance, my personal stance, and not at the black sister.
So you're saying that you using the term N-word lover was pointed at him, but the N-word that you were talking about was her.
Yes, I understand that now at this point.
Had you ever used that term before?
I used the NIGGA term, but
I'm
not
talking about
NIGGR.
N-word lover term. See, you're
No,
hesitating.
I don't.
No, 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 you're
I don't.
hesitating. Just like you said that man was hesitating on the stage yesterday. According to
Oh, here
you,
you
you're
go.
hesitating.
All right. So a couple of things here. He does go on to say the N-word lover in anger later on in this video. That part of the video will not be included here. That would be the second part of this. So I am inclined to believe that these weren't the only two times he has used it, because when you get emotional and say it, it seems like something you say. I'll say that. His hesitation, his rule initially, right, was that the white man he was talking to hesitated. And because that man hesitated, he knew the man was lying. Using that same reasoning here, but I won't. Let's move on. This is literally unimportant, but just pointing it out.
Hesitation.
But no, I don't use that term against. I was trying to think of the context in which I, would use that term. I wouldn't use that term in any other context but that term there. I mean, that context there.
Right. Had you used the term N-word lover before?
No, I haven't.
So why did you have such hesitation when I asked you a few moments ago?
Well, to be honest, it was the background. I'm moving my car for my mom to get, to get out of where she's going so she can move.
And so, listen, just so I get the full context, right? You say that you have an issue with interracial dating, but more so when a white man is dating a black woman, right? But less so when a black man is dating a white woman.
I would look down on him, but not as much.
And tell us, explain to us why.
Okay, just as a disclaimer, I've never dated or had any sexual relations with a white woman in my entire life. Okay, but to explain that is because those are my peers. Those brothers are my peers, and to really maintain dialogue with them is really to put it, those are my peers, and that's how I can really put it. Of course, I'm going to be a little lenient on them with the situation and the fact, because I might look at that as, that's one up for us.
One up. What do you mean by that?
And this is why the whole conversation shifted. And this is what this video is about, right? All right. So he has a problem with both black men and black women dating white men and white women, right? But he has more of a problem when black women date white men. The reason he just articulated for why he does not have so much of a problem, though he does have a problem with black men dating white women, he's going to explain more, and I'll let him explain that. It's because these are his peers, and he's more lenient to black men and what he perceived to be their fault when they date out. Hypocrisy. Plain and simple. That is where we're starting, and I hope that he can acknowledge that bias, right? I hope that he can acknowledge this, and I think he does when he says, these are my peers, so I'm more lenient towards them. I think that is a recognition that, okay, what I'm doing is probably wrong, at least, like at bottom, it's probably wrong, but I'm doing it still, right? So I think on some level he accepts that this might not be a good thing. The problem is, your acknowledgement of the thing being bad doesn't help if you continue to hold the bad thought. Not only do you hold the bad thought, you carry the thought with you, you justify the thought, and you are now here trying to defend your justification of that thought. All right. He points out that it's not him. He doesn't do this, right? He has a problem with it, but he has less of a problem with black men dating white women than he does with black women dating white men. There is, again, an ownership element to this. If we go back, and we'll talk about this later too, to this idea of a competition, this becomes odd. This becomes you trying to win by breaking the rules of the competition that you have created between black men and black women, right? And their access to what you perceive as privilege and power vis-a-vis white people. I hope that he's starting, at least now, to break down these thoughts, because your thoughts Actually, let him articulate his thoughts, and then we will break it down.
To me, I mean, we can look back on the movie The Color Purple. I know it wasn't really a color thing, but more of a sexual oriented issue between genders. But what that movie portrays is a war between black women and black men. It starts in the home. And in that war, we have certain players and we have certain cards that are in that war, and the white man is one.
Okay.
Okay, that is important. The white man is a card in the game, the versus going on between the black woman and the black man. The white man is a card he's attempting to remove from the black woman's possession because he vehemently opposes them doing this dating. This is really bad. The whole setup is horrible. But, this is important. The verses going on also highlights some of the reason he's rejecting this relationship with the black woman and the white man, while saying in the beginning that it was about protection of the black woman. I hope you guys see this is conflicting to some degree, right? Like, it doesn't have to be conflicting, right? Nuance and everything. But on one hand, there is this, he's going to explain this some more later on, by the way, but he's explaining that the reason he rejects a relationship between a black woman and a white man is because, well, if you were trying to date my sister, you were going to have to go through some things. This is a big brother sort of approach. Like, I'm protecting my sister. I am going to vet these men for you because as a woman, you might not know how to do it. Okay, whatever, right? Sexism, whatever, say what you want, that's fine. But over here, we are talking about a competition between the black man and the black woman, and whiteness being a player, right? Or rather a card in this game. So what is it? Is it about protection or is it about winning? And we know it's about winning because it's a one-up for the black man group when a black man is with a white woman in his own articulation. But he's going to get pushback on that, right? And he's going to be asked, so how is it not a sort of one up, in his own words, for black women when they date white men? Again, I've said this so many times, but I need to further drive this home. I don't believe these ideas. I recognize, however, that there are people in our community who believe these ideas. I am operating in the world that Julius has created. I don't believe any of this. There is a tendency, even in Julius's ideas about the world, to elevate the people they dislike, it seems, right? There is a deifying of whiteness in this way, as opposed to recognizing the social, political, and economic structures that would elevate one group over another, and recognize that there's nothing innate about the elevation, right? Like, this is annoying, but I'm saying all of this to highlight that I am in Julius's world right now. These are not my ideas about how the world operates. And I do recognize that a lot of people believe these things about what it means to be with a white woman and a white man to elevate themselves. So let's continue.
So go ahead. I'm listening. I want to hear your full context.
Okay. And so if he's one of the players, then for him to, because all right, this is one of the things, another disclaimer, in a relationship, traditionally the male is the head of the household.
Okay.
So in that sense, a white male being a head of a household where the woman is black, that kind of in the back of my mind is, to me, that's that slave house affair. Okay?
Okay.
So from that slave house affair, of course he's going to get backlash. He doesn't even want to claim the baby. You know what I mean? And he's going to get backlash even now to this day. So that's what I was speaking towards when I did say that comment. He might have sugarcoated it or put it in a different term, but I mean, what do you really, that's where my mind easily went to.
Right.
You know,
But
I don't know if
you were saying that it's kind of a one-up for the team. So what did you mean by that? A black man being with a white woman is kind of a one-up. What does that mean?
I hate to keep going back to slavery and things like that, but it lasted over centuries.
There are judgments being made here. I won't get into them right now, but there are judgments that are being made here regarding um, who stays and who goes. This comes up in the next part when it talks about statistics about who absentee father versus who is claiming their child publicly. And I think he's conflating what happens during slavery, where slave masters would impregnate slaves and do not own these children, to now, and say that is still happening. I'm not quite sure if that's a judgment being made. I hope not, because it would be wholly inaccurate, right? So that's one level, right, that we're discussing. Another level is he's going to talk about, and I think I should let him do it before I engage with it. He's going to talk about, well, he's going to talk about whiteness as an elevation, white women specifically elevating black men. And then he's going to give an example with his cousin. And this example literally contradicts everything that he says, but it is an example he gives. So I am not sure if it is this cognitive bias that is happening where he's unable to really analyze the situation for what it is and just putting his sort of subjective beliefs out into the world and making that reality, regardless of how much real actual facts and reality he has to bend to fit his narrative. Because we'll get to his cousin, and when we get there, we'll break down why it literally makes no sense for him to have the position that he has, citing his cousin as an example who is dating a white woman to justify his own ideas. Like, his own argument doesn't make sense. We'll get to it. Like, this is kind of frustrating.
So when we look at a black woman with a white man, or a black man with a white woman, let's in your case, you're saying specifically a black man with a white woman, it was one up for the team. He's the head of that household, and the woman in that household is white, so he's over that white woman.
Right. So
Through ideology,
how does
through a lot of things.
Yeah. So how does that? How does
I have to do this. He is over that white woman. This again is about, and if this is true, by the way, right? Like, if women are just kind of objects that are there, then they would not be bringing things to the community. If your experience of the world as a woman is that of being an object and that of lacking agency, then his reality would be true, right? Like, a black woman would not be able to get a one-up because the black woman doesn't have agency. They are objects and they are to be owned, right? If that is his reality, then it would make sense that he does not believe a black woman can bring anything to the black community if they're with a white man, because they're to be owned, right? Whereas a black man owning something that he deems to be valuable, owning, in the most objectifying way possible, something valuable, then they've added value to him. The thing is, the world doesn't operate like that, right? Like, womanhood, even in its most sort of objectifying sense, realistically, does bring something in, right? You must completely disregard womanhood for you to think about it in this way. But again, let's continue.
does that elevate the team? That's what I want to understand.
It really is, it's kind of petty, but it seems like it's a tit for tat thing, and it's just, I think it comes from traumatization. There's really no game to be played with. It's not a game at all. You know, people can be with who they want to be with, but when you see things like that, and yes, we might need to get out of this mindset, but for the protection of what is black, I would say no. So in my mind, that would be one up for the team, because if that man is the head of the household, then he's going to be over that white woman, and that ideology of white is not going to survive, but a little bit. Through the children.
The white is not going to survive?
The ideology of white will not survive, because the head of the household is black. So when I see interracial relationships, I automatically say, hey, this white man can't handle that sister. He's gonna be out of there tomorrow. It's okay, but they might stay together and they might do the damn thing. But the end and outcome of that household will be a white ideology because of the head of the household is white.
Okay, so you're saying that being with a white woman in that, so a black man being with a white woman is the elevation of the black man.
Of what it is to be black.
Explain, because I don't understand.
Like, let's say there's the white man doesn't want those kids speaking Ebonics. Everyone knows Ebonics is something that black people are very proficient in, and to be honest, it's not nothing to look down upon, because it takes something to put those things together to make it sound like that and to make it even popular for people to say. So that idea, part of it being black, is gone now because that white man doesn't want his children speaking Ebonics. And now his black wife is subjected to that, even if she's, same thing with a Mexican woman. That ideology is watered down now because she's with a white male.
Okay. So you're saying that the man is theoretically...
I feel so bad for Tonya TKO here. I can only imagine like sitting there, like your brain while he's talking, like literally going through a ton of sort of trying to distinguish the misinformation, right? And trying to get some kind of application of what is being said to make a coherent theory so that you can address it while being on screen trying to control your face. You know me, I can't control my face for anything. To engage, right? So the black ideology is destroyed when a black woman is with a white man. By the way, I shouldn't do this. I'll say this. It is not... I know a lot of people think that a black man or a white man is generally the sort of head of the... Actually, no, I don't actually have to get into this, because who gives up what to be with whom is not as straightforward as one might think when it comes to the black man, white woman relationship, right? But it's interesting because his very next sort of example with his cousin, which I mentioned before, completely contradicts the idea that the black man is, in fact, the head when they are with a white woman, and the white woman has to adopt the black man's ideology. He literally contradicts that later. So I don't even have to posit anything. He's going to do it, and I will remind you that he does it when he does. So let's continue. I also had more to say, but the video is getting too long, so yeah.
The head of the household and of the family. And so if a black man
Traditionally.
so if a black man gets with a white woman, then the white woman is under his household and thus submissive to him?
His ideology.
Submissive to the ideology. So you're saying
of
the
what it is to be black.
Of what his idea of what it is to be black.
Yes, because he portrays that every day. This is a black man, you know what I mean? Same as a white man. If he likes trucks, if the white man likes trucks and cowboy hats, his son will probably grow up liking trucks and cowboy hats, which is not a traditional black thing.
Okay. So I'm trying to wrap my mind around so that I can understand how the black man dating the white woman is an elevation when the white woman has more power in society than the black man.
It's in society, but what happens to her power? And I'm not questioning on your panel, Tonya, I swear.
No.
All right. This is super, super important. By the way, I just skipped the Ebonics thing. I didn't miss it. I just decided to skip it because I am not here to drag this man. And so I decided to skip the whole ideas that he espoused about blackness. I just decided to move on from that. I didn't not hear it. I did hear it. I decided to move on. If we're thinking about life as a game in the way Julius believes life to be a game, if he thinks the black man and the black woman are somehow below the white man and the white woman, and he thinks the black man is above the black woman, right? At least in the sort of relationship dynamic he's espousing. The white man in this scenario is literally at the top in his mind. It makes no sense then that the white woman would elevate the black man, but the white man could not elevate the black woman. Absolutely no sense. That makes no sense. Oh, I wish I could go to the next part where other people came on, but I won't. Let's continue to hear this.
No, I want to
What
hear
would you
your
say would
thoughts.
happen to her? Say again.
I said I want to hear your thoughts.
Okay. What would you say would happen to a traditional? What would you say would happen to a white woman in society if she was seen with a black man? Her power goes where in the sense of power.
Who's seeing her? I don't understand the
Society.
question.
Society as it is today. She's seen with a black man. Her friends are like, Sarah, what are you doing, Sarah? You know, and now her kids in the neighborhood, they're not in her white neighborhood. The kids are, they're not all white kids. So what? Would they get to be discriminated against? Maybe if they are or whatever. But her power as a white woman, if she has any in a social economic or the social class, it would diminish because she's with a black man. You see what I mean?
So you feel that her social power diminishes. So it's a one-up for the black man, but it's a deterioration for the black woman. I'm sorry, for the white woman.
I mean, let's point it out in all the successful black men in our community and in our race.
Oh, this is important. So I'm going to go back a little bit because he's going to talk about black men tending to date out when they become economically proficient. So the white woman in his world, who he articulates later, given status and power by the white man. The white woman is given status and power by the white man, right? This status and power is taken away or it diminishes when she's with a black man. But she elevates the black man. The white man, who he sees as the top, right? Who gives power to and status to the white woman and everyone else, right? They structure the society. That white man cannot elevate the black woman. Either you have not thought about what you just said at all, or you recognize the game that you think you are playing when it comes to a black man versus a black woman and their access to a white man versus a white woman and who has what kind of power in society, and you're intentionally trying to derail the game and prevent black women from that kind of access that you believe gives them power, or you just completely, again, don't think about what it is that you say. Because that doesn't make sense. Again, I'm not in agreement with this reality. I'm saying this reality that you posit has at the top the white man, and he gives everyone else their power. And because he gives everyone else their power, it does not then make sense that you believe a white man cannot give a black woman status and power and elevate them if you believe they are the ones at the top giving out the status and power. Like, what? Personal belief, I do recognize in society that white men specifically have a ton of power because of the ways in which we have been socialized, right? But there is also a sort of agency element, a personal element about how you view other people and how you view elevation. I do not believe you better than me because you're white. I do not believe you elevate anyone because you're white. I have to put this out there because while I recognize social dynamics, there is a personal responsibility there that is being completely ignored, right? And I think he has succumbed to the broader societal ideology about black and white and who has power and who is valuable and who is not. I think he has accepted his position in the world that is given to him by the broader society. That is a personal opinion about him that I vehemently oppose. So let's continue.
And to marry white women.
Okay.
Is that a social push towards what more acceptable socially? Does that make you more powerful socially? I mean, it's hard to talk about, but there's stigmas in both of those things.
Right. So let's go back to your earlier point. You said that she loses social power being with the black man, but the black man gains
Yes.
social power from being with her.
Yes, because from his social stance and his peers are gonna look at him like, yo, she got good credit, she white, she got that white privilege, you doing things, man, you know, you got it. But from her stance, what are you doing with that black man? What is it, you know, what are the type of things that she might hear? And to be honest, to me, that's just realistic in society, because don't nobody care about people's feelings and things like that when it's in the moment and you're right in front of somebody.
Okay, so let me understand this correctly. Let me just try to understand this, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you're saying that when a black man has, you said that in our society, when black men have money, that by and large they get with white women, right?
Yes, I believe that would be proven.
Right, and in getting with white women, he is elevated because now he's with a white woman, and that white woman allegedly has good credit, and she has white privilege, and she has, what was the third thing?
I think that was only the only two.
Okay,
I mean, it could be more.
So white privilege and good credit. So he has all of this money, and he is elevated by her white privilege by being in proximity to her?
No, I'm not saying he elevated due to her white privilege. He wants to elevate more from her white privilege. You get the status. You can't, I mean, that's for his social class. I'm not trying to be around white billionaires and things like that. So, you know what I mean? That doesn't have no appeal to me. I don't want to appeal to them or anything like that. And I already have no problem with being with a sister. So you're not going to see me with a white woman. But if that's his social class, which 9 times out of 10, having all that money and getting paid by these white folks, that's what it's going to be. You see all of them getting these white women. Why? It's something. I don't know. But it ain't nothing against nothing on my sisters, though.
Right. No, I just want to understand the ideology, because we appreciate you being so honest, because I've not heard this before, and there was some guy who said that you're speaking the truth. So so definitely I want to expound some more and understand. You're saying she comes with the better credit score and she comes with the white privilege, but now she's in this household with a black man, and her status lessens because she loses some of her white privilege by being in this relationship?
Yes, but don't get me wrong, they're still sellouts.
Who's the sellout?
The black man dating the white woman is a sellout, especially when you get successful.
Right, but you were explaining the elevation of the black man through the white woman.
Within their social class.
So give me examples of how the black man is elevated, though. I'd love to hear.
All right, so he's going to the part where I think it's important, but there are two conversations happening here, and these are two different people. Here's one where he believes this is a leg up for the black man to be with a white woman, but it's not one leg up, I guess, for a black woman to be with a white man, right? That's him, and I really would like to get more in depth on this with him. But there's a second element here where black men believe, in his opinion, that whiteness allows for better elevation, just whiteness by itself, not in absolute terms, but in relative terms, in that even if you are a rich black man, having a white woman who is, again, white, that is the descriptor, elevates the black man, right? That ideology, that person, I would also like to speak with, right? So Julius accepting the other person who believes that being with a white woman is an elevation is one thing, and I want to talk to him. But also the person he's speaking of, which I suspect he also believes, but he rejects this outright, so I cannot put that on him, even though I believe he believes that, right? I want to talk to him too, right? These are two very different people. And unfortunately, I think somewhere in the conversation, it felt like he was put in, these two people became him, and he was made to argue for both people. I don't know if he has the sort of background in argumentation, for example, even if he thought about his ideas, really, right? I don't know if he did that enough to make the distinction, right? that he is, and he does say he opposes this. So he's not the person who believes this, but he's the person who does not push back too hard on men who engage in this behavior, rather, because it's a one-up for the team. So his ideas can also be challenged, but somewhere he became the one person and he defended both, which made the conversation a lot less specific. It also made the conversation harder to listen to towards the end, because I wish he had just said, I can't defend these people, as opposed to trying to do that, because I don't know necessarily that that is his position, though I believe it to be. And the reason why he couldn't do it was because he was struggling with accepting that this might also be his belief. But I wish he had just said, no, that's not my belief. This is my belief. And the reason why is, I don't know, society.
Okay. I'm not gonna pay attention to comments. To be honest, let's say you're a successful basketball player and you're going to parties where it's majority white folks. Now, I'm not saying this is true, but let's say they get in there and they're going to these parties. Would you say he would look more appealing to white people with a white woman on his arm or a black woman on his arm? Because to me, in my mind, I would say that's a little bit scary. Who do these N-words think they are, coming in here with their family, trying to have a good time, to be more socially acceptable, to stop all the questions and all this? I'm gonna go get me a white girl. There is no question on who I'm loyal to. We look at Robert De Niro different. We look at Idris Elba different. Okay, why is there a note to point these people out? Idris Elba married a what? Did Idris Elba marry a black woman or a white woman?
You don't know, but you're mentioning him?
No, I know. I believe it was a black woman. I believe it was a black woman.
He's with a woman that is from East Africa, so she has the phenotype.
And Robert De Niro married a white woman.
Excuse me?
Robert De Niro married a black woman, correct?
Oh, okay, I thought you just said he married a white woman, but go ahead.
I'm sorry, I'm dyslexic a little bit. He married a black woman. People look at those two, they're both actors, they look at them differently. They note that they married opposite of their race. That right there, that little bit of where people's minds direct that attention is exactly what I'm talking about.
I'm confused. You need to listen. I'm very literal, so I need you. I don't pick up on inference, so I need you to be very specific with me. How do they look at Idris Elba differently than Robert De Niro?
They look at Idris Elba like, hey, he married a sister. Right on. They look at Robert De Niro. He married a sister. Right on. These are black males. These are black men. You know what I mean? That's the team. That's the word that I'm talking about. That's the one up for the team right there. Because we know.
Yeah, unless, okay, I don't know who he's talking about, because there's no one up for the team, because no one he just spoke about was a black man with a white woman at all. Both people he just spoke about married black women. So I think he got confused here. Irrelevant, like completely irrelevant. This whole minute was completely irrelevant, but I played it still because I want to get to this point. I think what he did, because he was talking about who would you rather walk into a room with white people on your hand, right? The preoccupation with the white gaze is a fundamental flaw in sort of upward mobility of black people. I think, this is my belief. I don't think we should spend time thinking about how we look to white people and trying to get the approval of white people. That is easier said than done because we are in a white society. I think a lot of women who have reached out to me, I think the problem, based on how I've interpreted the conversation, is that black men seem to be overly preoccupied and overly invested in the acceptance from the white community. That being said, it makes it very difficult for these black men or even black women who think about whiteness in this way as a sort of elevation by itself, just by the whiteness of it all, right? It's very difficult for trust in that black person. If there is a black person who thinks that whiteness is by itself superior, it's very difficult to then trust them. Like it's difficult because as soon as you can get access to whiteness, you will leave and you will go to that avenue, right, where you think that person is better. Now, there are ways to think about this that is more theoretical about the structures and access to powers in the society. But if you think whiteness, right, by itself makes someone better, then, I mean, outside of being the R word, you're kind of useless, in my opinion, to push any black movement or agenda. Like, that's just my opinion. You can recognize the social, political, and economic power while also know that it's not because of skin tone or, well, it is, right? But not innately because of skin tone, but because of a system that was set up to elevate a kind of person, right? I hope that makes sense. So the preoccupation, again, with the white gaze is a problem when it comes to, I think, manhood in the conception that men are supposed to be leaders. If your leaders are in some ways looking up to whiteness, it's very hard to then look up to them, right? Like, imagine being with someone who also looks up to someone else. If you can have access to the someone else that they're looking up to, it seems like you would just go around that person and go to the head, the person in charge, right? Like, if you can get to the person in charge, it seems you would just go around the manager and talk to the person in charge to get that which you want. I do think we need to reframe our minds. I'm not saying this as a man. It just seems odd that we would, in our own imagination, elevate other men above us. Like, I don't know. I find that kind of odd.
That the end outcome to these relationships is a black child, okay? And I don't like that Robert De Niro married that black woman, okay? But somehow he gets points for that in the black community. Somehow.
Is
LeBron James marrying within his race and being so successful that he is. I'm telling you, some black people looked at that as a surprise. Okay.
All right. So, however, you started out saying if a black man walks into a party with a white woman versus walking into the party with a black woman, that the sentiment towards him is different. That he is more, he's less feared when he's with a white woman, and he's more feared when he's with a black woman. Help us understand. Help us understand.
It's the black family. I mean, it's been getting attacked, and it's continuously getting attacked and separated. And honestly, I think that society doesn't want to see the black family together. So when I start seeing these push for interracial relationships, and it's okay, I have to think like, yo, what about we didn't even fix this yet? We in shambles over here. That's the struggle I'm speaking of.
Right, but see okay, so this is the thing that's a little bit confusing for me, and I'm trying to ask you questions so that you will be able to say what it is that you feel, so that we can hear and understand your point of view, right? I had no idea we were going to get into this conversation, but it's interesting, and I'm intrigued by your honesty, right? So basically, you're saying that a white woman is an elevation for a black man because the black man, being the head of the household, will be able to get the white privilege by proxy, but the black woman being in the white man's household is not an elevation for the black woman because she's not able to get the white privilege by proxy?
Not at all. Maybe a little bit.
How?
But the thing is, we got to think about, like, in social class, the parties that he will be going to. If he's a successful black man, he's not going to no house party or something like that. You know what I mean? He's going to be around other reputable people, and as we know, in the society, they're mainly white.
Okay.
Okay. So if he knows that, and he's been subjected to that, getting to the level that he's at, he's going to go ahead and get him a white woman.
So that he can be invited to better parties and have more access through the white woman.
Through the white woman, absolutely.
But the black woman being with the most powerful man in society is not being invited to these parties, not getting the Della Wheat and Touche sponsorships for her business, and she's not getting that.
To society, she's a bed wench. And you can thank Olivia Pope for that.
All right, so this is... To society, she is what he said. That is to black men. That specific phrase is to the black community. So you're not talking about that there is a conflation of things going on. She is elevated. In fact, there are white women who probably won't like her for it, right? Because if she does marry a white man in your world, right? This is your world where white men are the top, right? She is elevated, right? She would be with the person who has the most power. Now, she won't have as much power as him, but she would be elevated over other people, particularly because he talks about who assigns status. And if the white man does and can, then if don't understand this ideology. But then you calling her a bed, whatever you want to call her, that seems like a very personal issue that is being projected right now. And that's the problem. But he's going to get into Olivia Pope, never watched it, don't even know the storyline, and then he's going to say, he just says you have to thank Olivia Pope for that. By the way, he referenced The Color Purple, Olivia Pope, Robert De Niro, Idris Elba. It seems he's getting his ideas. By the way, the Robert De Niro and Idris Elba thing didn't make any sense at all because they're both married to black women. So not sure what he was trying to say there. Pretty sure no one knew what he was trying to say there. But him pointing them out seems to be, he's getting his ideas from the media, which I guess we all know that this is where people tune in, not research, none of that. His ideas comes from the media directly.
From
Excuse me?
the fucking TV show. You can thank Olivia Pope for that. To society, she laying with a black woman is she's a bed wench. You can thank Olivia Pope for that, and you can thank Halle Berry and Monsters Ball for that because of their depictions of these characters. Their depictions of these characters that they played, sleeping around with white men.
So what depiction do you feel that Olivia Pope was powerful? She was wealthy. She ran her own business, and she was a boss.
But she was not the first lady. She wasn't the first lady.
She could have been if she wanted to, but she didn't feel that first lady was high enough for her. Did you watch the show?
No, I didn't watch the show because I couldn't deal with it once I found out she was sleeping with a white man. But the thing is, she probably couldn't be if she wanted to be. He wouldn't have picked her. What I'm speaking towards Tonya is he wouldn't have picked her to be the first lady because the white man is primarily loyal to marrying his race. The black man, a successful black man, is primarily loyal to marrying a white woman, and it is facts and it can be proven by the many successful black men that you see with white women married today. She couldn't be the first lady because he wouldn't have chose her.
He chose her in the series. He left his wife. He was in love with Olivia. I don't think that's... See, the thing is, I think that you're projecting some of your own point of view onto the scenario and the situation. Because do you know what the data says? The data shows...
What does the data say?
The data shows that when black men marry white women, that the black men marry women who have less money. So it's not like these white women...
It's not about the money.
What is it about?
It's not about the money.
What is it about?
When marrying a woman, it's not about the woman's money. She can have all the money in the world, unless she's Oprah. And then I might be marrying her for that bag. But it's not when I think of white women...
How is he going to get to the yachts and the parties and the elevation when she is not the one inviting him to those things? How is he going to get there?
It's the white... It just looks better with the white woman on his arm.
Absolutely not. So that is a Freudian slip. It just looks better for a black man to have a white woman on his arm. Have you absolutely lost your mind? Thankfully, this is one of the few times that I think his brain caught up to him. Because he then added, oh yeah, it's more socially acceptable. So it took that from being his personal judgment to what society deems appropriate. I'm glad he made that clarification because what he said that it looks better. That blanket statement highlights an inferiority complex that is a problem. Like, I'm not even talking about black womanhood here. I'm talking about the inferiority complex that exists in people, like comparing yourself to whiteness and feeling less than, like it looks better. Do you think that it's just a judgment on black women? No. That is also a judgment on black men. It's a judgment on black people. When you say as a black man that it looks better for a black man to be with a white woman, right? I don't have a problem with interracial relationships. I hope I've made that much clear. But for you to say it in this way, for you to disregard blackness in this way, I now have a problem with. I will just add an underscore that he does clarify and say, oh, society. He caught himself. Anyway, let's continue.
Some of the most reputable people in America that's majority white, and most of them are conservatives, and you're not gonna come up here with a black family. It's just probably not gonna happen. Or they've been indoctrinated on that way before they left the hood, way before they left where they were coming from.
Looks better? What do you mean looks better? What do you mean looks better? Help us understand looks better. It looks better for a black man to be with a white woman on his arm.
All I'm saying is that white women are more socially acceptable than black women, per se. Same with the white male. But same with the black male, I mean.
What do you mean same thing with the black male?
He has absolutely lost his mind to say something like that. Absolutely lost his mind. I'm not going to get in depth on this. Just no. Absolutely not.
When you say same thing, I need you to explain to me what you mean by same thing. That a white man is more socially acceptable or the black man is more socially acceptable?
The white man is more socially acceptable. See, and the thing is, when I don't know if this is a part of your personal experience or not, but when you've heard black women specifically speaking on trying interracial relationships, what would be their reasoning mainly behind it?
Why black women try interracial relationships?
Mm-hmm.
I haven't spoken with black women about why they try interracial relationships. Why don't you enlighten us?
I've spoken to a lot of black women, mainly the black women I'm interested in, you know what I mean? And it's been because, okay.
Yes.
About white men and white women being more socially acceptable than black men and black women. That is, oh yeah. From the women that I've spoken to mainly, the reasoning from behind them going white is, I hear this all the time. I got my white boy. And one, because the white man is more pushoverish. They can have, you're gonna have a fight in there with two black a man and a woman. She might be headstrong. Another one is he's more stable. They think they're not gonna cheat on them. And all of this is from all these stigmatisms and these social stigmatisms behind being white and being black in the dating field. And I know this to be true. I've heard this all the time. They make it into
where are you getting this
from?
I
got my white boy.
Where are you getting this from?
Personal experiences, social media, it's all over social media, mainly.
All right. I'm going to say here that this is where I started feeling bad for him. Not asking anyone to. This person seems hurt, right? These ideas around whiteness, he claims were told to him by a black woman, right? Maybe. But there's also a sense that he's internalized these things. And they've had a sort of profound effect on him. And he's attempting to reject it while he doesn't reject it outwardly. He does say it's a sort of stereotype, right? And so there is, I can recognize a sadness and his attempt to push back without pushing back overtly at the stereotypes. It's almost as if he's accepted them, right? Like I just said, but he doesn't want to. And he doesn't want to believe it, but he's believing it. And I wish he had vehemently opposed it and said, this is inaccurate, if he believes it to be inaccurate. But he doesn't. And I think that's probably because he's internalizing and accepting these things, which is just unfortunate. Like, again, not asking anyone to feel bad for him, but I do have a sense of empathy and sympathy, rather, here, where I think he's internalizing ideas that are being espoused around blackness and whiteness, and he doesn't know how to grapple with them, but he's also attempting to internalize them, and this is causing a sort of animosity, as opposed to just, even if you want to be like against something, you don't have to be against it because you've internalized its superiority. Whiteness, that is.
Okay.
Personal experiences.
Okay, and then
and it's like it seems like black women are fed up with black men and they don't even want to try it anymore But that's a different reasoning from a man getting with a white man getting with a black woman. He's not fed up with his white woman.
Okay,
He's
let's
not
hear. What is
tired
his
of that.
reason? What is the white man's reason?
What I think, because I'm not a white man, I can only speak from a black man's perspective, is that this white man, he must want something from her. He must want something from her.
Something
I
like
got
what?
my
I need
black
you to be
queen. Is what I
specific.
hear. I got my black queen.
Okay.
Say again?
I got my black queen. So he wants something from her? What does he want from her?
It might be popular. It might be something from these black women that they're getting, a little fat booty that they heard about. Maybe they heard about something from the black women. Maybe they heard it because we are some of the best women on the planet here, in my personal opinion. But it's all different reasonings behind why one would get with the other one, why a black man would get with a white woman, why a black woman would get with a white man. But it's all these different reasonings, and they're based on social aspects.
The reason why black men are getting with white women. So you said white men are getting with black women because they want something from her. Might have heard about the fat booty. You said black women are getting with black women are getting with white men because they feel that he may be more stable and not going to cheat on her. So what is the reason that black men get with white women then?
I've heard this from a black male. They're easier to control. If you want full control over kids, get you a white woman or a Mexican. I've heard things like this. I've seen things like this, and why people get with white women. And to be honest, the households are more stable when the people make these decisions. And when I don't want to say more stable across the board, but the ones that I've seen, like, they stay together.
So this, by the way, is his judgment now. This we can analyze. He said the houses that he see, they're more stable, right? Now he's going to give an example of the stable house, right? Because you can't reject, like, he's not talking about statistics now, so any stats that I'm going to throw out is not going to be useful right now. But he's talking about his ideas and what he sees. So let's hear it.
Who stays together?
I'm using my cousin Shada. This is the only example I have. My black cousin Shada with a white woman. She's headstrong. Shada's more, he's not outspoken or anything like that, but their relationship works. You know what I mean?
How long have they been together?
This is like 6 years. 6 years. They don't live together though.
Wait, they're married?
And she treats my cousin like a charity case, and that's why it's like I see it for what it is. He may not know that he's getting these benefits from her, but he's getting these benefits from her. More financially responsible and all of this stuff.
Hold on. You said she treats him like a charity case.
So when we look at a black woman with a white man, or a black man with a white woman, let's in your case you're saying specifically for me, a black man with a white woman, it was one up for the team. He's the head of that household, and the woman in that household is white, so he's over that white woman. She treats him as a charity case because he's always on the game all the time. She handles the money, you know what I'm saying? But he's still getting those benefits from this white woman that a black man would, an ignorant black man, I would say, because a lot of people probably say I'm ignorant for saying this, that an ignorant black man would think to get from a white woman. Now, I don't want to dispute or say that love is not a factor in these things, but there is this social construct that is embedded in these interracial relationships.
So, this is the end of part one, and I ended it there because his thesis, right, is that a black man being with a white woman is an elevation. He doubles down on this throughout the video, and then we'll watch later on the pushback. But he then points out an example in his own life, because he says this, that is what he sees. He points out his cousin who is with a white woman who, in his own words, treats his cousin like a charity case. Now, if you remember, in the beginning, he said, his words, not mine, that black woman being with a white man means that she doesn't have power because the white man is the head of the household. A black man is elevated by a white woman because the black man is ahead of the white woman in the black household because it's the black man. But he shows an example of his black male cousin with a white woman, and the white woman in that relationship treats the black man like a charity case. But he still believes that this black man is being elevated. We're talking about elevation of the Black man. We're talking about adopting the Black ideas, and the Black man are the head of the household. These are the things that you said that exist in a Black man, white woman relationship in your experience. So we can push back about that using statistics. Then you point out an example showing your cousin, a Black man, being treated as a quote charity case by a white woman. So does that not disrupt, in your experience, the ideas that you have around the Black man, white woman relationship and the elevation of the Black man? Like your own example, Black men being treated, your Black cousin being treated as a charity case by a white woman does not sound like an elevation, yet you think it is still. And you said ignorant people think it is too, so I will point that out. How is this your thesis? Are Black women being treated like charity cases too in your experience? Yeah, I'm done. This is part one. Like, this is super interesting. I will get to part two. Again, I did wish that we got more in depth on his very specific stance about what he prefers to see, a Black man with a white woman or a Black woman with a white man. That's where he articulates a very specific normative judgment. That is where he has a stance, right? And that's what I want to hear about. But he also talks about why Black man chooses to be with white women when they have elevated themselves financially and economically, and that being with this white woman also elevate them further, right? The second elevation with a white woman is relative. So this is like super important, right? And oh, the next half of this is a mess. So Tonya TKO, please reach out if you want and let me know if I should not. I'm doing the negative, right? If you don't want me to cover it, please let me know. I won't repeat it on here. It's fine. Like, no horrible feelings. I just want to give you the option before I get into that second half, because that second half is a complete mess. A complete mess. And he gets completely annihilated by the people who came on because he has not thought this through. He has not thought this through, which is very clear when Tonya TKO pretty much gives him the floor in the beginning, and he's unable to articulate his own stance. But any Black man out there who have this feeling, please know there's an open invite. Hope you're not a troll. I would love to speak with you. And that's that on that. Remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you again later. Bye.